detected above an army base in Washington, D.C., where Secretary of State and Defense Secretary Hegseth live. The U.S. officials have not determined where they came from, of course, but they said multiple drones have appeared. And what can you already assume is happening? I shouldn't say it like that. What is already happening in Twitter? Tons of MAGA people are going, Iranian drones are attacking Pete Hegseth at their home. Yep, both of which are unverified, or at least, they're not at their home. Well, technically, you're saying it like that to make it sound like it's their residence in a normal sense. No, they're in a military base. So what happened was Iran attacked, if that's what actually happened, a legal military target where they happen to be living. And then claiming it's Iranian drones when even they're telling you we're not sure about that right now. Just typical partisan nonsense. It happens every day. This triggered a meeting at the White House over how to respond and whether to increase security measures, argue clearly about, framing it as Iran no matter what. The military is already operating on a high alert threat. And the Iran war and the United States and Israel have been engaging for the illegal war that suddenly is a war by everyone's account, even though we were quibbling about whether it was a war. Funny how that works out. It's not a war, it's an operation. No, now it's a war. Everyone said, even Hegseth, it's a war, So why'd we fight about that in the first place? Just to distract, I guess. So, one, they're living on military bases, which I'll get into in a second. But two, the idea of this attack. Well, we already went over this. Now, this is a real thing, but whether that's always the case, who can say? But that there's examples well before this, by the way, where you can prove that they have, like, for example, from a hacking perspective, Vault 7 showed you that they have the tools to make it look like somebody else conducted the attack. It's a cyber false flag. It's what it is. In this case, we know that they have technology. I showed you this during the Syrian war, that they literally have the ability, they buy old Russian weapons and use them and blame Russia or whatever. In this case, we know that they can reproduce weaponry or drones that they claim are Iran. So in this case, this is being called out. Abbas Arghachi, the Iranian foreign minister, claims the U.S. is using Lucas drones that match theirs perfectly to blame Arab nations. Other framing that is more from the Israeli joint U.S. agenda. But we know that's possible. We know they've done it before. So we need to consider that. That's all. So is it, one, in the interest of Iran to do this? Well, it's hard to say, seeing as how it's where they're located, but I would argue clearly either way, it's a legal target. It's a military base. But now we're talking about in the United States, which is my whole point. I don't think Iran did this. I think whether there's even a drone there, quite frankly, but if there is, I think we know what's going on here. I think is Iran, why would they suddenly send a drone to maybe attack a U.S. location when they could be legally bombing the U.S. right now? Maybe because they want to hide they did it, but look, they didn't even do it. It didn't actually bomb anything. This just feels very obviously suspicious. And I want to highlight that the fact is that if they did do it, though, it would be a legal target. But that would be a major line that was crossed in regard to the way the world views what's happening. So I just argue they're not going to do that until they're pushed to. And I argue they won't ever unless it becomes a desperate, like, this is not going to stop unless we do something more severe. Okay, I was talking about this earlier as well, that it's a compounding situation where Iran, over the years, has shown tremendous restraint in any number of locations where they don't just respond when they're attacked unilaterally. And they said this in this last 12 days discussion. They said, look, we've come to learn clearly that we show restraint and you guys just attack us more. You perceive it as weakness and you attack more, because they're belligerent. So at this point, ask you where their minds are at. Whether you want to frame them as terrorists or not, it doesn't change the legal reality of what every country can do. And they're not, by the way. But the point is that now they're in a situation where they go, okay, they illegally attacked us. We're not, we could bomb the U.S. right now by every rule of law, but every law of war, but we're not, because they don't want to push that line. But the point is that if they just keep showing restraint, if they keep letting them do it, well, how long until Israel keeps going harder and harder until they go, well, what else are we going to do? Because if we don't take further action, then it's only going to be seen as weakness. But if we take the further action, it will be used to justify their next step. So you basically create a circumstance where they become just as just belligerent and illegitimate and, just unconcerned with international law as what you've created, because that's the only answer that they can find. I hope we don't get there, but how do we not see where the U.S. and Israel, that's some of these articles that have been written about where they're driving the global situation, where they're driving this nuclear threat with just chaos, because they're creating a situation where nothing means anything, ever. It's all up in the air. There's nothing sacred. There's no agreements. We're powerful. We'll take what we want. No, what was the term? No something given, no quarter given, as Hegseth said, meaning we're going to kill everybody, even though it's against the law. There's no air in that conversation. It's very simple. So in regard to the drones, consider what is actually driving this and if this is the next step. So again, with the point of maybe this winding down a little bit, well, suddenly you have a drone attacking U.S. bases in Washington, D.C. Now, would Trump act on that? What if they bombed the location? What if somebody got killed? Do you think Trump would then feel he had to respond? And would that then make it no longer Israel's situation? Is Israel going to back away from this and allow this to be what they've always wanted to be? Probably. That's just my opinion, but I think I see that's where it's going. And here's what Mario Nawfal puts out. One of the ones I was talking about. Drones detected over the base where Secretary of Rubio and Hegseth live. And it says the war in Iran isn't 7,000 miles away anymore. Oh, it's Iran now. Are we certain about that? Does anybody claim that? No. They even said explicitly that we don't know where it's from. But we know Iran. And it says unidentified drones are now flying over the homes of the two official. Well, you just said it's Iran, and you said now it's at home. See, this is the sentiment. We're supposed to be feeling that, no, it's coming home. Well, if it does, in fact, come home, it's because of the people in that very picture. It's because of their illegal war and their unjustified actions that drove the legal response that Iran could do. That's the last thing that I want, but it would be their fault. Now, on to this article. Stephen Miller, Marco Rubio, Kristi Noem, all the totally not Zionist America First people, and others have taken their homes to military bases. Of course, it stems back to Stephen Miller. The former White House advisor, Katie Miller, mother of 3 young children and wife of the presidential right-hand man, Stephen Miller, right-hand man, the unelected advisor who suddenly has more power than Marco Rubio, according to pretty much everybody in the room. Walked out of her front door one Thursday morning and last month and was confronted by a woman that she didn't know, just because we're in the world and people are outside. Okay. And it says when she told the story on Fox News, which she wildly embellished, according to plenty of people, she described the encounter as a protest that crossed a line. What happened? Did you get punched? Did you get assaulted? No, apparently not. There was a person there saying mean things. The stranger had told Kate Miller, "I'm watching you," she said. This was the day after Charlie Kirk's assassination, because apparently that's why. No, it's not. Guys, the government is on watch. People, it would probably make more sense to me that would be a Republican. It doesn't even matter to me, though. The point is Americans are critical right now, or their government, or we know what they're doing to it. Look at the Epstein file. Look at everything. And so these people are trying to frame that distrust with our own government as some kind of outside force. You know what is the outside force? Stephen Miller. And then turning this around on itself and creating them as the victim class and moving into military bases because they're protecting themselves from Iran? No, from you. That's my opinion anyway. And of course, even Grok will tell you this is something started with Trump's administration. Part of a broader trend of several Trump administration officials, we just listed them, it's not all of them, it's those people moving into military housing. Because they're unpopular, because nobody likes them, other than the lying partisans that pretend everybody does. The primary reason reported across multiple sources, guess what? Enhanced personal security. That also folds into the ICE and the lie about, what they claim domestic in America, because that's the case. Americans are looking to them as criminals. So they wanted to turn it into a domestic terrorism, Democrat plot. Well, they've never verified the reality of that, even though I know there's elements of parts of what they're saying that you could prove on either side of the conversation that come back to them, in fact. But look, I mean, are we just going to pretend we didn't go back? What happened? What happened? Where's the Antifa home base, guys? Where's all the terrorists that Cash told you were all coming down? Oh, I got their names. Oh, it's all coming down. He said on like 3 podcasts over the last 6 months? Oh, yeah. Oh, so nothing. Got it. Nothing. What about the terror Halloween plot? Oh, yeah. Okay. Nothing. What about all even bluster and lie and hype? And nothing happens. Some small, like basically arresting people under claims of terrorism and all this stuff, and it ends up being some kind of misdemeanor charge. It's constant. But what they told you was we're under attack by that's why they did personal security. And, which again, just to be clear, means protection from Americans, protection from potential threats, protests, harassment. So just in case it's unclear, the Trump administration, some of their worst people are living on military bases because they're afraid of the American people. Meanwhile, here's the Iranian president wandering in the open public down Tehran, because that's something important to understand. And as much as people wanted to pretend like this is not true, guys, this does not suggest that they're the best person in the world, that everybody in the country loves them. But what it shows you, just like when Assad would do it, just like when Maduro would do it, it's not because it's North Korea. It's because people there support them. And it's actually very easy to prove if you're not completely blinded by State Department talking points and partisan nonsense. It's obvious that these people have mass support in their countries. When's the last time you saw any one of these monsters walk down any street? They know people walk up to them and go, "You're a liar. You're a terrorist," on either side. And you know it. I think this is really important to understand.